A few years ago, there was a wealthy couple who had two young children, a boy and a girl. The family lived in a large house in Newport Beach, California. After taking care of their kids all week, the mother and father decided that they needed a break, so they booked a table for dinner at a nice restaurant. That evening, they called a teenage girl they knew and arranged for her to come over and babysit their children while they were out. When the babysitter arrived, the parents told her to fix supper for the kids and put them to bed. After that, you could just watch TV and help yourself to anything in the fridge, said the father. And if you wouldn't mind, said the mother, could you watch TV in our bedroom? The kids have been having nightmares recently, so if you hear them crying, you can just go in and calm them down. The babysitter happily agreed, and the parents left for their dinner dates. The girl gave the children some milk and cookies, then ushered them upstairs to bed. She started to read them a bedtime story, and before long the boy and girl were fast asleep. After tucking them in, she switched off the lights and went to watch TV. When the babysitter walked into the parents' bedroom and sat down, she noticed that there was a creepy-looking clown statue standing in the corner of the room. She tried to ignore it, but it looked so eerie and disturbing that it sent a chill down her spine. She felt as though its eyes were staring straight at her while she watched TV. As time passed, the babysitter started to feel more and more uneasy about this clown statue. Whenever she glanced at it, she felt the unsettling feeling that it had moved, ever so slightly. Finally, the clown statue began to freak her out so much that she couldn't handle it any longer. She decided to go downstairs and phone the parents. When she dialed the number they had left for her, the mother answered. "Hi, it's me," said the babysitter. "Everything's fine, the kids are fast asleep in bed, but I was just wondering, would it be okay if I watched TV downstairs?" "Of course," replied the father, "but why?" "I know it sounds silly," laughed the girl, "but the clown statue is really creeping me out." "The clown statue?" asked the father. "Yeah, the clown statue in your bedroom," the girl replied. The phone went silent for a moment. "Listen to me very carefully," said the father. "Take the kids and get out of the house. We will call the police. Go, now." "What's wrong?" asked the girl. The father gulped and replied, "We don't have a clown statue." For a second, the babysitter just stood there, stunned. Then she dropped the phone and raced upstairs and grabbed the children. Carrying one under each arm, she raced downstairs and fled out into the street. Huddled on the sidewalk, comforting the two children, the babysitter looked up at the bedroom window and saw something that made her scream out of horror. Peeking through a gap in the curtains was the white painted face of a clown. It stared at her for a moment, then sank back down into the darkness. Within minutes, the police arrived and cautiously entered the room. In the upstairs bedroom, they found a man dressed in a clown suit. When they arrested him, they found a knife concealed in his costume. The clown turned out to be a mentally disturbed midget who was a convicted murderer and cold-blooded killer. The evil man had been stalking the family for months, lurking in the attic during daytime and coming out to sneak around the house at night. For weeks, the children had been complaining about a clown statue that stood in their room and watched them sleep, but the parents just dismissed this as nightmares. Hold on. The circle just submit a story about a scary midget? Is he trying to say something? That is not the twist I expected. That is not the twist I expected. The Cats of Ulthar. It is said that in Ulthar, which lies beyond the river sky, no man may kill a cat, and that is I can verily believe. Oh, am I supposed to put an accent? And this I can verily believe, as I gaze upon him, who sitteth purring before the fire. For the cat is cryptic, and close to strange things which men cannot see. He is the soul of antique Egyptus, and bearer of tales from forgotten cities in Meroe and Ophir. He is the kin of the jungle's lords, and heir to the secrets of hoary and sinister Africa. The Sphinx is his cousin, and he speaks his language, but he is more ancient than the Sphinx, and remembers that which he hath forgotten. In Ulthar, before ever the burgesses forbade the killing of cats, there dwelt an old cotter and his wife who delighted to trap and slay the cats of their neighbors. Why they did this I know not, save that many hate the voice of the cat in night, and take it ill that cats should run stealthily about yards and gardens at twilight. But whatever the reason, this old man and woman took pleasure in trapping and slaying every cat which came near to their hovel, and from some of the sounds heard after dark. Many villagers fancied the manner of slaying was exceedingly peculiar, but the villagers did not discuss such things with the old man and his wife, because of the habitual expression on the weathered faces of the two, and became their cottage was so small and so darkly hidden under spreading oaks at the back of a neglected yard. In truth, much of the owners of cats hated these odd folk. They feared them more, and instead of berating them as brutal assassins, merely took care that no cherished pet or mouser should stray towards the remote hovel under the dark trees. When through such unavoidable oversight a cat was missed, and sounds heard after the dark, the loser would lament impotently, or console himself by thanking fate that it was not one of his children who had thus vanished. For the people of Ulthar were simple, and knew not whence it all cats first came. One day a caravan of strange wanderers from the south entered the narrow cobbled streets of Ulthar. Dark wanderers they were, and unlike the other roving folk who passed through the village twice every year, in the marketplace they found fortunes for silver, and bought gay beads from the merchants. What was the land of these wanderers none could tell, but it was seen that they were given to strange prayers, and that they had painted on their side of their wagons strange figures, with human bodies and the heads of cats, hawks, rams, and lions. And the leader of the caravan wore a headdress with 2 horns and a curious disc betwixt the horns. There was in this singular caravan a little boy with no father or mother, but only a tiny black kitten to cherish. The plague had not been kind to him, yet had left this small furry thing to mitigate his sorrow, and when one is very young, one can find great relief in the living antics of a black kitten. So the boy whom the dark people called Menace smiled more often than he wept as he sat playing with his graceful kitten on the steps of an oddly painted wagon. On the third morning of the wanderers' stay in Ulthar, Menace could not find his kitten, and as he sobbed aloud in the marketplace, certain villagers told him of the old man and his wife, and of sounds heard at the night. And when he heard these things, his sobbing gave place to meditation, and finally to prayer. He stretched out his hands towards the sun, and prayed in a tongue no villager could understand, though indeed the villagers did not try very hard to understand, since their attention was mostly taken upon by the sky and the odd shapes the clouds were assuming. It was very peculiar, but as the little boy uttered his petitions there seemed to form overhead the shadowy, nebulous figures of exotic things, of hybrid creatures crowned with horn-flanked discs. Nature is full of such illusions to impress the imaginative. That night the wanderers left Ulthar and were never seen again, and the householders were troubled when they noticed that in all the village there was not a cat to be found. From each hearth the familiar cat had vanished, cats large and small, black, gray, striped, yellow, and whites. Old Crannon, the burgomaster, the burgomaster swore that the dark folk had taken the cats away in revenge for killing of Mena's kitten, and cursed the caravan and the little boy. But Nith, the lean notary, declared that the old cotter and his wife were most likely persons to suspect, for the hatreds of cats were notorious and increasingly bold. Still, no one durst complain to the sinister couple, even when little Atal, the innkeeper's son, vowed that he had at twilight seen all the cat of Ulthar and that accursed yard, under the trees, pacing very slowly and solemnly, in a circle around the cottage, 2 abreast, as if in performance of some unheard-of rite of beasts. The villagers did not know how much to believe from so small a boy, and though they feared the evil pair had charmed the cats to their death, they preferred not to chide the old cotter till they met him outside his dark and repellent yard. So Ulthar went to sleep in his vain anger, and when the people awakened to dawn, behold, every cat was back and at his accustomed hearth, large and small, black, gray, striped in yellow. None was missing. Very sleek and fat did the cats appear, and Sonorous was purring a content. The citizens talked with one another of the fair, and marveled not a little. Old Crannon again insisted that it was the dark folk who had taken them, since cats did not return alive from the cottage of the ancient man and his wife. But all agreed on one thing, that the refusal of all the cats to eat their portions of meat and drink their saucers of milk was exceedingly curious. For 2 whole days the sleek, lazy cats of Ulthar would not touch no food, and only dozed by the fire or in the sun. It was fully a week before the villagers noticed that no lights were appearing at dusk in the nights in the windows of the cottage under the trees. Then the lead Nith remarked that no one had seen the old man or his wife since the nights the cat were away. In another week, the burgomaster decided to overcome his fears and call at the strangely silent dwelling as a matter of duty, though in so doing was careful to take with him Shang the blacksmith and Tull the cutter of stone as witnesses. And when they had broken down the frail door, they found only this: 2 cleanly picked human skeletons on the earthen floor, and a number of singular beetles crawling in the shadowy corners. There was subsequently much talk among the burgesses of Ulthar. Sath, the coroner, disputed at length with Nith, the lean notary, and Crannon and Shang and Thull were overwhelmed with questions. Even little Athol, the innkeeper's son, was closely questioned and given a sweetmeat as a reward. They talked of the old cotter and his wife, of the caravan of dark wanderers, of small Menes and his black kitten, of the prayer of Menes and of the sky during that prayer, and of the doings of the cats on the night the caravan left, and of what was later found in the cottage under the dark trees in the repellent yard. And in the end, the burgesses passed that remarkable law which is told of traitors and Hatheg and discussed by travelers and Nur, namely that in Ulthar no man may kill a cat. What did you guys think of that? Oh, thank you. I would not be able to read a bedtime story after eating a jalapeno. It would literally just sound like a dog panting, because I cannot handle spice. Maybe one day I can handle jalapenos, you know? I love the burgomaster. I love the burgomaster. Okay, so this one was a ChatGPT bedtime story submitted by Ender. So I'm gonna read it. Are you guys ready for this? The chaotic adventures of Leche, the surprisingly moist hero. Once upon a time, in the mystical land of Snack Bottom Hollow, lived a creature so peculiar that even the villagers' weirdos took note. Its name, Leche. Half lychee fruit, half bumblebee, all personality. Leche buzzed around with tiny wings that sounded like a kazoo someone sat on. Every time I flapped, it sprayed a refreshing mist of fruit juice into a royal summons. One day, the Queen of Snack Bottom sent for our drippiest protagonist. Leche, come forth, boomed the queen, who was made entirely of gluten-free breadsticks. Leche zipped forward, leaving the throne rooms 28% stickier than it had been 30 seconds earlier. Was that important? Yes, said the queen, wiping a stray droplet from her royal eyebrow. The villainous Brockozilla is stomping around town demanding everyone eat their vegetables. We cannot allow this tyranny. Leche gasped. But I'm emotionally unprepared. That's fine, said the queen. Just do your best, dear. The Battle of the Greens. So off Leche buzzed, wobbling through the air like a wet soap bar. When they arrived at the edge of town, Brockozilla, an angry broccoli the size of a Wi-Fi tower, bellowed, "Eat your greens or face the fiber." Leche, trembling like a jello cup in an earthquake, raised their tiny juice-filled fists. "No, I am sticky!" And with one mighty nervous buzz, frrrp, Leche unleashed a catastrophic splash of lychee juice so powerful it created a small indoor rainstorm. Brockozilla slipped, fell flat on his broccoli butt, and slid all the way into the municipal lake, where he became a harmless floating salad. Snack Bottom celebrates. The townsfolk cheered. All hail Leche, the juice wielder. Leche beamed proudly, and also involuntarily dressed everyone within a 5-mile radius. That night, as the moon hung low and the air smelled faintly of fruit juice, Leche curled up in their cozy little honeycomb-shaped fruit basket and whispered, "I saved the day, and maybe slightly ruined it, but mostly saved it." And with a small, sticky bzzz, Leche drifted off to sleep. The end. Sleep well, and may your dreams be juicy. Jojo, Stone Ocean. Da, 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 da. Alright, so I'm gonna butcher this story. Yeah, that's just the whole sentence. This one was submitted by Skater, and he loves long, terrible words that I can't read. So we're gonna see if I can read this, but I don't think I can. Nya Rathbol. Nya. I'm just gonna shorten that to Nya, like a cat. Nya. The crawling chaos. I am the last. I will tell the audient void. I do not recall distinctly when it began, but it was months ago. The general tension was horrible. To a season of political and social upheaval was added a strange and brooding apprehension of hideous physical danger, a danger widespread and all-embracing, such a danger as may be imagining only in the most terrible phantasms of the night. I recall that the people went about in pale and worried faces, and whispered warnings and prophecies which no one dared consciously repeat or acknowledge to himself that he had heard. A sense of monstrous guilt was upon the land, and out of the abysses between the stars swept chill currents that made men shiver in dark and lonely places. There was a demoniac alteration in the sequence of the seasons. The autumn heat lingered fearsomely, and everyone felt that the world and perhaps the universe had passed from the control of known gods and forces to that of gods and forces which were unknown. And it was then that Nya came out of Egypt. Who he was, none could tell, but he was the old native blood and looked like a pharaoh. The fellahin knelt when they saw him, yet could not say why. He said he had risen up out of the blackness of 27 centuries, that he had heard messages from places not on this planet. Into the lands of civilization came Nya, swarthy, slender, and sinister, always buying strange instruments of glass and metal and combining them into instruments even stranger. He spoke much of the sciences of electricity and psychology and gave exhibitions of power which sent his spectators away speechless, yet which swelled his fame to exceeding magnitude. Men advised one another to see Nya, and shuddered, and when Nya vanished, for the small hour were rent with the screams of nightmare. Never before had the screams of nightmare been such a public problem. Now the wise men almost wished that they could forbid sleep in the small hours, that the shrieks of cities might less horribly disturb the pale, pitying moon as it glimmered on green winter waters, gliding under bridges and old steeples crumbling against a sickly sky. I remember when Nya came to my city, the great and old, the terrible city of unnumbered crimes. My friend had told me of him, and of the impelling fascination and allurement of his revelations, and I burned with eagerness to explore his uttermost mysteries. My friends said they were horrible and impressive beyond my most fevered imaginings, that what was thrown on a screen in the darkened room prophesied things none but Nya dared prophesy, and that in the sputter of his sparks there was taken from men that which had never been taken before, yet which shewed only in the eyes, and I heard it hinted abroad that those who knew Nya looked on sights which others saw not. It was in the hot autumn that I went through the night in the restless crowds to see Nya. Throughout the stifling night and up the endless stairs into the choking room, and shadowed on a screen, I saw hooded forms amid ruins and yellow, evil faces peering from behind fallen monuments. I saw the world battling against blackness, against the waves of destruction from ultimate space, whirling, churling, struggling against the dimming, cooling sun. Then the sparks played amazingly around the heads of the spectators, and hair stood on end while shadows more grotesque than I could tell came out and squatted on the heads, and one eye, who was cooler and scientific than the rest, mumbled a trembling protest about imposture and static electricity. Nya drove us all out, down the dizzy stairs into the damp, hot, deserted midnight streets. I screamed aloud that I was not afraid, that I would never be afraid, and others screamed with me in solace. We swore to one another that the city was exactly the same, but still alive, and when the electric lights began to fade, we cursed the company over and over again, and laughed at the queer faces we made. I believe we felt something coming down from the greenish moon, for when we began to depend on its light, we drifted into curious, involuntary formations, and seemed to know our destinations, though we dared not think of them. Once we looked at the pavement and found the blocks loose and displaced with bad grass, with scarce a line of rusted metal to shew where the tramways had run. And again we saw a tramcar, lone, windowless, dilapidated, and almost on its side. When we gazed around the horse's eyes, so boring. When does the story get good? We could never. When we gazed around the horizon, we could never find the third tower by the river, and noticed that the silhouette of the second tower was ragged on the top. When we split up into narrow columns, each of which seemed drawn in a different direction, one disappeared in a narrow alley to the left, leaving only the echo of a shocking moan. Another filed down a weed-choked subway entrance, howling with a laughter that was mad. My own column was sucked towards the open country, and presently felt a chill which was not of the hot autumn, for as we stalked out of the dark moor, we beheld around us the hellish moon glitter of evil snows, trackless and inexplicable snows, swept asunder in one direction only, where lay a gulf all the blacker for its glittering walls. The column seemed very thin indeed as it plodded dreamily into the gulf. I lingered behind, for the black rift in the green-litten snow was frightful, and I thought I had left the reverberations of a disquieting wail as my companions vanished, but my power to linger was slight. As if beckoned by those who had gone before, I half floated between the titanic snow drifts, quivering and afraid, into the sightless vortex of the unimaginable, screamingly sentient, dumbly delirious. Only the gods that were can tell. A second sensitive shadow writhing in hands that were not hands, and whirled blindly past ghastly midnights of rotting creation, corpse of dead worlds with swords that were cities, charnel winds that brushed the pallid stars and make them flicker low. Beyond the world's vague ghosts of monstrous things, half-seen columns of unsanctified temples that rest on nameless rocks beneath space and reach up to dizzy vacua above the spheres of light and darkness. And through this revolting graveyard of the universe, the muffled, maddening beatings of drums and thin, monotonous whine of blasphemous flutes from inconceivable, unlighted chambers beyond time, the detestable pounding and piping whereunto danced slowly, awkwardly, absurdly, the gigantic tenebrous ultimate gods, the weak, voiceless, mindless gargoyles whose soul is Nya. I like the name. Nya. It's cute.